Let me ask you. Oh, there you go, man. Bam. We're doing. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Awesome, dude. How are you?
Good, man. Good. Good to see you. It's good to see anybody these days, you know?
I know, right? It's like I think the thing that people like to do the most is see people.
Dude, the first several podcasts I did with people I hadn't seen in a while from in-state, out-of-state, whatever, it was just like, ah, a person. I was seeing a few people, but man, it's like a couple family members, my wife, a couple students, a couple
Are you
instructors.
guys still fully locked down there?
No, they've lightened up a lot, but I still can't have kids classes.
Really?
Yeah. What about you guys? What's going on?
So we're kind of like just in this little niche where we're in the city of Battlefield, which is outside of Springfield. And so we kind of like, they voted recently to not adhere to the county's more stricter guidelines. And so like pretty much every few days they seem to be laxing it, one way or the other. So honestly, man, like we just decided to open up 2 weeks ago, and we're doing regular classes, regular rolling. I'm doing my part to like screen students when they come in, and we have like a waiver that everybody needs to sign. That's additional. It's pretty much specific to COVID and kind of like showing symptoms and stuff like that. We kind of doubled up how many times we have the school professionally cleaned, and then obviously we do a really good job cleaning the school. If you've ever been to my school, it's immaculate. Like I'm such a germaphobe, anyways. This is like honestly like practice, if nothing else.
I remember there's a funny ass meme that came out. It was like a bunch of jiu-jitsu dudes like COVID-19 and they're just like rolling. Then it was like ringworm and every like a hazmat suit.
Man, honestly, like, I still have people wanting to do private lessons, and I have a lot of people that come and train jiu-jitsu for, a ton of different reasons. So, some of those people I still try to make time for even during this time and train with them. And honestly, man, like, after training, I was still more worried about like doing the normal stuff, like take a shower, because of ringworm and staph versus like worried about COVID, but
I know, yeah.
It's what it is. I think we'll kind of just all make our own decision and figure out what feels right for us and, move forward.
Yeah, man. We, like we're rolling, but like that is like the way that they did the when they opened the fitness centers back up in Arkansas or gyms, that they are like had some stupid guidelines that really kind of ruled out jiu-jitsu. So we're technically an open rebellion for adult jiu-jitsu class.
Exactly. And from my understanding is what you're going to see is you're kind of in a position where you can't sue the government because it's a guideline. It's not a law. Okay. And they can't necessarily, like if they take you to jail or try to fine you, that's where you're going to have cause to sue them or pursue them in a legal sense. So that's why I think a lot of the times you see these cases, they're going to get dismissed. They're not going to actually go to jail. Like if they do go to jail, like you're going to have someone come in above them and say, hey, get that person out of jail before we get sued. I mean, that's my understanding of it, because I mean, at some point the Constitution has to stand for something, right? And so if we're just going to come in and change that anytime that something scary comes along, it's like, at what point are we just, does it not matter? So seeing people like Tanner Rice open up and stuff, I'm like,
I was
I'm
just thinking about him.
If I can't open up, I mean, there's something wrong. So, and then that's not to take anything away from people that think they should stay closed or have, personal beliefs to stay closed. If they think that's what's best, then I'm all for that. But, the last email I got from a student was, someone that was dealing with depression and spending time away from the school was really, struggling. I was like, man, I'm not doing this anymore. Like, I don't want anybody, having a very dark time in their life because I might or might not be helping out, quote unquote, flatten this curve. We haven't had a case in our city in 3 weeks, so it's like, why do you shut down an economy and everybody's livelihood for something like that? It's baffling to me, but I don't know, man. I'm just a jiu-jitsu coach. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not any expert. I just teach jiu-jitsu, so I try to just get all the information I can, I guess.
Well, man, I mean, yes, but it like at the same time you represent, I mean, I guess what you could just call the common man, right?
Yeah,
Like there's so many
average
people
Joe.
like, yeah, we're making up society, like I jujitsu, I teach college, I do some other things, but like still like we're just like we're the everyday people of the country,
Exactly.
and
Like pull out jujitsu coach and insert, electrician or cable installation guy, whatever. I mean, like we are the people that make up the world as a whole. You know what I mean? And like, eh, I think that's where I've seen the most affected. Like we've had most of our students that have had to cancel. It's financial. It's not because they're worried about COVID or this or that. It's they're worried that they're not going to be able to pay bills, and so I've just extended free membership to anybody that's lost their job in this time. It's whatever, like whatever I can do to kind of help out. It's a no brainer, right?
honestly it is, man. I mean, it we've done the same thing, and we're kind of taking some of the same precautions that you mentioned earlier, and we're about back to full capacity on our adults. It's still going to
Yeah.
take us some time to rebound across the board, but
I,
man,
I
it's
think I don't think we'll start getting there till probably 1st of June. Our adult classes are definitely growing back. We signed up like 4 new students last week, which is pretty good for us. I'm
that's great.
super excited about that. Yeah, but the kids, it's crazy. It's like they're the least likely to be affected by this, but parents, are very cautious, and I understand. I'm a parent too, so again, everybody needs to do what's right for them, and whatever makes them feel safe is what I want them to do.
Yeah, for sure, man. That's I'm kind of the same way, and it's we have some people within the gym membership that are nervous about it. Like I talked to Tanner Ross about it because I asked him that question. I was just like, dude, what you know, what is the perception of your members about your actions? Like, are any of them mad at you? And he said that they had a couple of people that were upset, but it's like, like those types of members may would have been upset about something else on down the line. I don't know.
And that's why I want to let people make their own decision. I don't want to like make anybody come train like, hey, listen, you need to come in and train. It's like for the most part, people need to just come when they're comfortable. If you need to set a number or a date in your head for okay, in the 1st of June, then I can come back or whatever. If that makes you feel better or safe, and you can come in and train jiu-jitsu with a clear mind, then June it is. But I'm here. I'm on the mat. We have a lot of people on the mat still, so we're here. What I'm really excited for is getting these tournaments going. I'll be really happy when the AGF and Fuji and some of the smaller regional tournaments, get rolling again.
For sure. Likewise. Yeah, that's man, I've been keeping up with Chris about that family incident.
Oh man.
That sucks. I just had him on the podcast like 10 days ago, and then Brandon like right after. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
dude. It's like as a parent, like it's just devastating. Like, man, I could talk about that for an hour. I mean, for those of you guys that don't know, Chris Carlino, he's an awesome dude. He's a half owner for AGF grappling tournaments, and had a family member that was involved in a very, very bad car accident. So if you guys know Chris, hit him up, give him some love. He's got a GoFundMe page that was started by somebody else. It wasn't even by Chris.
I'll share
You
that
know,
in the comments or
yeah,
in the
definitely check that out
description.
because they're just good people, man. That's a tournament that I've seen come up from pretty much nothing. And it's it's one of my students' favorite events to be a part of because of just how well it is presented. So shout out to Chris Carlino and your family. Prayers to you guys, and you guys are definitely in our thoughts for sure. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a sad deal, man. And that's what's crazy to me is like it's not about avoiding death, because these kind of accidents, and situations and dangers and they can happen at any time. Someone texting and driving, running a red light, like that. I see that all the time. That's what I'm more scared of, not something that might or might not happen. And I'm just not willing to, live my life in fear because you have something like that just happens and it's so devastating and it's out of nowhere. So life's precious, man. It's too short to live in fear, I feel.
It is, man, and that is it. It's just the fear. Like it's got more people thinking about the inevitability of death instead of living for today.
Yeah. And that's something I think jiu-jitsu is really good about, is like jiu-jitsu, you just kind of learn to deal with the circumstance and make the best out of things, no matter what it is. I mean, we always say that to our students when they sign up, like, you know, we're going to teach you jiu-jitsu, but really, like, you're going to gain other stuff. You're going to gain confidence or you know, just whatever you're going to get from it, you know. That's what we're selling, you know. And some people get it from jiu-jitsu, some people get it from rock climbing, you know, whatever it is. Our medium is jiu-jitsu, you know. So I'm always glad to be a part of this, you know, in any way, especially for students that use it as a tool to deal with things, you know.
For sure, man. And like that's like jujitsu or martial arts in general is like a part of just the physical culture of like that fitness, exercise, wellness through those activities. Like so many of my students, those kind of students you were mentioning earlier, like the hobby kind of practitioner that's just coming in, they might even be 40 years old with a couple of kids that do your kids classes.
Yep.
Like, you know, it's for them too.
100%. And that's, without them, we don't have a community, you know. And so I think that's like, that's important for people to remember, is jiu-jitsu is not just like a way to work out or a way to be healthy. It's a way to be like completely healthy, you know, mind and body, you know. So.
And speaking of jiu-jitsu, man, like how, like, yeah, I know that you you got your black belt from Caio Terra, is that correct?
That's right. That's right.
How
Professor
well,
Caio.
how did you get, which is legendary, right? Like I followed that guy for years, and you know, met you several years ago, and kind of, you know, like we know some of the same people. I think the first time I met you may have been at Jack Toffer's house in
I think
California
that's
with Black
correct, actually.
Pants.
We were in Irvine.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
had
that's
some
crazy.
really good
Small world.
guacamole.
Yeah,
But
that's right. That's right. That's right. It was,
and
it was right after the Pan Ams, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah, and that
Yeah.
was like I was like a purple belt then.
Yep.
And it was a
Yep.
few years
Small
back. Like
world, man. Yeah, Jack's a super good dude. I'd like to get him back out soon. But you
I
know,
will, yeah.
it's crazy. I met Caio, like the first time I ever met Caio was at a Naga tournament, and I was like a purple belt at the time, you know, and had won a few Nagas and had you know, massive head, and thought, I was like, all right, I'm gonna go out. And at the time, I wanted to fight Simpson Go. Like, he was just someone I had been aware of as a no-gi person, and you know, it was in Vegas. So I was like, all right, I'm going to go to Naga in Vegas, and I want to try to get a match against him Go. And I had no idea who Caio was. Like, I was so new to jiu-jitsu, you know, I didn't really understand like how deep and who some of the big names were even at that time. I was just focused on no-gi, like an idiot, you know. And but anyways, so I go out there and we're sitting up in the stands, and I see Caio come out. I didn't know who he was at the time, and he's doing the absolute division, because Naga used to do that at the very beginning, right? And so he comes up, and there's this massive like D1 wrestler across the mat from him. I'm like, oh man, look at this kid. He's gonna get smashed, you know. And Caio looks like, you know, this is what, 10 years ago almost now. He looks very young to be polite, right? And so he rolling toe holds this dude in like 12 seconds, man. It was like ninja through him, you know. And I was like, whoa, that was super cool, you know. And then so we're up in the stands again, just kind of killing time. And then the second round starts in this absolute. And so, oh, here's this kid again, you know what I mean? And so another big guy, like 180 pounds. This guy was a much more jiu-jitsu style player, but same thing. After like a minute, Caio gets him in like a toe hold. Yeah, I was pretty sure it's a toe hold. And, you know, taps the guy very loud and very, you know, violent almost, you know. And I'm just like, oh crap. You know, I start to realize like, hey guys, what do you think he weighs? You know what I mean? Because like, now I'm starting to put it together that he's likely going to be in my weight division later on today, and I have no idea who this killer is, right? And he was still at you know, part of the Gracie Fight team and stuff like that. So it was before he had his own association or anything. You know, he was still in Caesars in
oh yeah, I remember
San Francisco.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
And so I have no idea who this guy is, but now I'm just like, oh god, you know. And he completely wrecks everybody in the absolute division that day. And then we start our division. So my first match was against Simpson Go, and he beat me on points. He made me look silly. He passed my guard. And then I had to fight the guy that lost to Caio, which was some brown belt, some dude. And so I beat him on points. And so I'm sitting there watching Caio roll against Sim. And he was just so effortless, man. Sim defended against omoplata and went to stand up. And before he was even on his feet, he was, was tapping. And I was like, what just happened? And so afterwards, I'm over there kind of, shooting the breeze with Sim. And he's just telling me who this guy is, telling me who Caio is. I'm just like blown away. I'm like, that's amazing. I've never seen jiu-jitsu, on that level. And this is at the time I was a 10th Planet practitioner. And so I reached out to Denny Prokopos at the time, was my coach, and he knew Caio. He's like, yeah, man, Caio's great. He's amazing, and just, talked him up very, very, spoke very highly of him. And so I started following Caio and saw that he was going to be doing a seminar in Omaha. And at the time, that was a friend of mine that was a 10th Planet school as well, like an affiliate. And I think they probably still are. But so I attended the seminar, and just, I mean, if you've ever trained with Caio and he breaks down jiu-jitsu to you, it's on another level. It's like, it's science, and once someone has like made it that clear, it really kind of skews it. You know what I mean? And Caio had me doing it was a side control escape. I can still show you every technique from that day, 8 or 9 years ago, or however long it's been. And it was just about framing and bridging and getting out and doing everything technically. And as a purple belt, I thought I knew how to do it, and he just, it's wrong. It's wrong. The whole time I just heard it's wrong, until finally at the end of the day, I did it right. And then from then on, dude, everything made sense. Everything clicked. I understand his reasoning behind it. And that's when jiu-jitsu really started becoming scientific. And so I reached out to him and started having him come out and do seminars. And he just kept, you need to be training the gi, you need to train the gi. And pretty much as soon as he opened up an association, it was a good time for me to make a transition to go with him full time. So it was a good thing, man. It's been a really good relationship for me. And man, I owe everything to Caio when it comes to jiu-jitsu, both, my business and on the mats. That'd be lost without that guy, man. So
awesome, man. Man, I know I've seen you over the years doing some camps and stuff with Caio, and I've also seen you hosting him and hosting camps for different events like Worlds or Pans or whatever you guys got going on. Has he how has he impacted your training philosophy, and how you do things?
Man, so the first time I ever went to one of Caio's camps was the Pan Ams for 2013. And that's where I met Tanner Rice, Manny Diaz, Leandro Lowe, Luanza Monteiro was there that weekend, Vicente Jr., Samir, Milton Bastos, Casino. I mean, it was just, Clark Gracie was there. It was ridiculous, right? I'm just a brown belt that barely trained in the gi. And Caio was like, no, you need to be here. I even asked, should I even wear this brown belt? He's like, no, you're a brown belt, wear the brown belt. I'm just like, oh, God. I mean, Vitor Pichel, I could go on for an hour about all the black belts that Formiga Barbosa was there that weekend. I mean, it's just 2 weeks of just getting killed by these amazing people, and it wasn't even them too. It's their brown belts and their purple belts were killing me. And Caio's got the heater cranked up to 95 degrees. There's 20 black belts on this mat, 5 black belts over here on this mat, 10 on the back room. It's insanity, right? And what really impacted me, I think, was the way everybody just killed each other, but nobody really got injured. Okay. Seriously, I mean, you get bumps and bruises like a tough camp is what it is, right? Everybody was super just so nobody knew me, right? Nobody knew me. I was just some guy that Caio knew and was invited to the camp or whatever. And there's all these just super high level guys there. So I'm just lost, right? And people are offering, the fruit from their bowl, to you while you're sweating. You want some? It's dude, I don't even know you. And you're offering me, food knowing, damn well I might sweat in it. It's just that culture was so positive and hard and difficult, all at the same time, that it was over for me after that, man. I was so in love with the way Caio does jiu-jitsu and trains and seeks perfection. And just, man, that camp changed my life for sure. It was 2 weeks living in a hotel with my wife. We drove all the way out there with one of our dogs, and it was crazy, but from then on, I kind of knew how I wanted to go about jiu-jitsu, you know?
Nice, nice. And do you have like an annual camp at your gym as well?
So I went out to that camp for the first, so 2013, 14, 15, I think 3 years in a row, maybe 4. And then it started becoming a point where I had enough people here that wanted to do the pans and they wanted to train, but they couldn't go out to California for 3 weeks, because camp is 2 weeks long. And then after that, you have the pans that last for, a few days or whatever. And so to take that much time away from the school became hard for other people, as well as for me to be away and removed from the school as it's been growing quite a bit lately. And so being able to just kind of be an athlete is not really always in the cards. So I kind of have to focus on the business side. And that's when we started hosting a camp. And I really just tried to follow Caio's play, man. I really did. I tried to do exactly what he did at his camp and invites all the, high level black belts that I know and are here in the Midwest. And man, it's been pretty awesome. Like I was really disappointed at this year's pans being, kind of falling apart, but we still had an awesome camp with a lot of really good dudes coming. And, I think we'll try to get something going as the tournaments, get rolling again for sure.
Yeah. And I hope we see tournaments coming back sooner than later. I know there's still a lot of speculation about events, and
it's tough for them, because they have to navigate through so many things. We only have to navigate through our specific set of rules. They have to navigate through everybody's rules, and so I can only imagine the frustration with those guys. We're gonna try to do something kind of fun. It's like gonna be like a duels, for like wrestling. We're going to have, and Nick Sanders, I don't know if you know Nick, but he's an awesome dude that you should definitely have on here. He's great. But he's always shared, lots of ideas with me, and we've been a part of different training opportunities. So what we're going to do is we're going to have like a dual situation where you'll fill a weight category, from rooster to ultra heavy. And we'll have like a JV and a varsity, so to speak. So you'll have white and blue belts will make up your JV team or your B team. And then you'll have purple belt and above that can fill each weight class. So that way, if you don't have a ton of black belts, you can have some purple belts that'll get good matches, or brown belts, that can go up or down or whatever. And gives each school kind of an opportunity to fill a squad. And then we'll have those schools kind of go against each other, try to get 3 teams at the same weekend. And the winner, if you submit your opponent, you would get 3 points if you for your team. If you win the match by points, you would get 2. If it's a draw or a tie, we get 1. So we're not going to do like ref's decision or overtime or anything like that. Just straight up, 5 minutes for the white and blue belt division, 6-minute rounds for the purple belt and above. And then do like an overall team, and so each school will face each school, and then we'll total up the points and announce a winner. Try to do like cash prize or something cool, so.
That is cool, man. I had Omar on a while back, but I remember when he was doing those Battle My Crews.
Yeah.
We took a couple people out to those, and I like little in-house events like that. Like it's something that's just like occurring in the background. It's low pressure. You get to see your buddies,
100%. We did it. We did the same thing with Luis Pinto, Ninja, out at his school in Kansas. And it's a great opportunity for people that might not have that motivation to go compete yet. And then they taste that and they either realize like, okay, that's about all I want. Or they're like, give me more, and that's really what we're trying to do as a coach, is get them to see that you're not made of glass. You're going to have, fun. If you lose, who cares, but really it's about the growth of competing, it's about that angst, getting that nerves of something you didn't want to do and you made yourself do it and you didn't die, it's like, that's what competition is all about. I think so many people get lost in the idea of I need to win a tournament, but really if you're always getting better, you're kind of winning, no matter what. Obviously, as we get better and better, we demand more of ourselves, and that's why we want to be champions. But at the end of the day, if we're improving, man, we're accomplishing our goal through competition. They always say what your opponent's your most honest coach or something like that, right? And that's true. If you're not good at something, your opponent's going to try to find out as fast as possible and exploit it. So that's what I try to get my students to gain out of competition, and always trying to encourage them to do like the local tournaments or whatever we can do to get those feet wet.
For sure, man. I competed a lot all the way through brown belt. I have not competed since I got my black, but man, it definitely, I learned so many lessons from competing that, you know, it's impacted the way I approach, the way I coach. It's just a part of, you know, my background and everything. Like I know you have done super fights. I didn't know you had that earlier background like you did in Nogi. So you've had kind of like, and you've done like the sport circuit, I would say, right?
A little bit, yeah, man. You know, the thing is there's so many people out there that compete crazy amounts nowadays. So like to say I compete a lot is kind of, you know, ridiculous. But, you know, honestly, like as not having my professor with me all the time, whether it was, you know, when I was with 10th Planet or under Caio, I think that was the easiest way for me to show him or whoever, my coach, that, you know, I'm getting better. I'm improving. I'm working on the things that I suck at. See, this is me, you know, trying to get better at them, you know? And so, not having that one-on-one interaction all the time, like every day with your coach is, you know, it definitely is not as good, you know? And so there's ways that I wanted to always like prove myself. And so competition was just, you know, a way for me to do that. So whether I won or lost, like that's why I would do like 170 pound and under, you know, absolute divisions and stuff like that. And just try to put myself out there, because at the end of it, if I have that experience, that's what I can pass off to my students, you know. And if you've never been there before, it's really tough to tell someone how to get there, you know, whatever it is, you know. That was a big attraction for me with Caio as a coach, is he's done it, you know, like he's done it all. He's no-gi world champion, he's gi world champion, he's the man, right? And so it's like he can tell me what it feels like to be nervous for a match. You know, like one of the biggest times Caio gave me confidence was, you know, I told him, I said, hey man, every time I go out to the bullpen, I'm just like super nervous, but like I feel like inadequate. Like I'm like, man, these guys get to train with black belts all the time, man, all the time. How am I supposed to possibly compete with them when I just roll with my students, you know? And so I told Caio this, just, you know, hey man, I'm dealing with this a lot right now. It's always in my head. He said, you know, Brian, the first time I ever won the worlds, he said, I pretty much only got to train with blue belts. He's like, that was my, you know, my most typical training partners was blue belts. He said, rarely did I get to train with another black belt, and especially one my size, you know. And he's like, and I won the worlds. And I said, you know, if you can do it, what's my excuse? You know what I mean? So, you know, he's always just like, when you have that opportunity to speak from a position of experience, it to me carries so much more weight than projection. You know, like I can theorize all day what it feels like to do certain things, you know, what it feels like to hunt a grizzly bear, you know, but I've never done that. So I couldn't tell you how much your heart is probably pumping out of your chest when you're aiming on that monster. You know what I mean? Like that's just, I couldn't even imagine that. So I think experience is huge, and especially something like jiu-jitsu.
Man, that's an interesting point, and like something I think a lot of people go through, like myself included, of like, I didn't have a professor every day like instructing me. I cross-trained, I did private lessons, I brought people in, I did seminars, traveled, everything I could do. But I mean, what's the jiu-jitsu scene like around you? Is that like, are you like, is cross-training like a prominent thing in the region? Like, was there other people you could network with at the time you were coming up?
So that's kind of weird, because when we were first coming up, I feel like as a 10th Planet school, especially when 10th Planet wasn't as famous, I guess, or as well known as it is now, a lot of people kind of looked at us as like the outsiders. Like, you know, we're not gonna acknowledge those no-gi guys or whatever. And at the time, there was only, I think, like 2 places to train, and mostly MMA schools here in town. And that still is kind of the thing. There's mostly MMA schools that also do jiu-jitsu, you know. In the Springfield, we're pretty much the only, you know, large jiu-jitsu only school. There's little clubs and places kind of popping up here and there, but you know, it's crazy, man. There's a lot of schools in Springfield. For such a small town, we have a lot of places to train. So you'll see, you know, I think when you go to the tournaments, you kind of see like the differences of academies and stuff like that. But I think everybody kind of finds what, I don't know, the place that they feel is home. I'm always with the open door. I really try to encourage, people to cross train and come in. We have like a Sunday time that is pretty much open to anybody, when we cross train though, I try to make sure that we have the right people coming in, because sometimes, man, you get one of those gym hoppers that they don't really have a home. They bounce to everybody, until they get kicked out. And that's the only type of person I try to avoid. But yeah, man, we do a lot of events that I just don't charge money for, because I want to train. I want my friends to come in and train, and my students to get opportunities to train with new styles and stuff like that. So I think cross training is huge, man. You just have to do it with the right group. You have to have the right attitude when you're doing it.
Nice, man. How so I've been talking to a lot of jiu-jitsu people. I talk to historians and all sorts of folks on here, but I've been like, with the downturn, especially before I was offering classes again for adults, I was like, man, doing those Zoom classes for jiu-jitsu is not where it's at, bro.
Oh my God, dude,
so,
I hated it. It was like, I love my students so much. Like, I really do. Shout out to all my students. Like, you guys are awesome. Like, I really do care about those people so much. And so that's why I did it, but I hated it, man. I that's not how you learn jiu-jitsu. You remember when everybody got mad about people getting blue belts online.
Oh,
there's
yeah.
a reason for that. Like, that's not how you learn jiu-jitsu. It's a great way to work out, and I can show you to do a bunch of drills, and I can sit here and keep going and do all that, but you can't feel a screen, you know what I mean? And at the end of the day, like, that's really what we're doing. Like, that's what makes us as a coach different between a YouTube video. A YouTube video is great, but you got to go to the gym and you got to get people to react and move with you for it to be worth anything,
Yeah, man. I feel like there's better forums than the Zoom class for that. And I did like 3 or 4, and I did kickboxing classes and had good participation, but
the kickboxing I see would be better, but yeah, we did it Monday through Thursday. We did pretty much 45-minute kids, 45-minute adults. Monday through Thursday nights.
Kids are big for us.
Kids didn't mind so much. They just wanted to play on the computer and like do some workouts and then tell each other jokes and stuff. And so that's, again, that's what jiu-jitsu is. It's our way to relate to another human, and so the kids kind of illustrated that better than anybody, because they were so excited when I started doing, all right, guys. And I stole it from my kid's teacher, that she was doing like a show and tell at the end of class or whatever. And my daughter was so excited for when it was her day to do show and tell. And so I was like, all right, kids, we're going to do you can, tell a joke, do a show and tell, or, show us something that you're like a physical feat, like if you can do a backflip or whatever, And so, man, you could tell the kids would just get through that workout just so they could tell their knock joke. Karina was practicing, my daughter, she was practicing, her joke telling skills the whole time, just because, she knew she was going to do it at the end of class. So, it's cool when we get to kind of use it to do other things. But at the end of it, jiu-jitsu class is meant to be taught in person, that otherwise YouTube would have got rid of us many, many years ago. For
sure, man. So like, man, while we're on that, like, everybody has their own flair, right? About like their approach, like how their own individual mind interpreted all this stuff we're into. Like, what are some of your approaches on the mat, like when you're teaching your students, like how you run a class?
So, we have a curriculum, and the curriculum Professor Caio puts together, and it's all of the fundamental techniques. And what I did is I take that whole list and then I divide it amongst the year. So I know what we're going to cover when we're going to cover it, right? And I try to make sure that one week semi leads into the next, so it's not like completely just lost from one week to the other. My goal with the students, especially in the fundamentals class, is I need you to leave here and understand why to do this technique and when to do it. I don't care if you understand how. Okay. The biggest thing I need you to understand is when and why, because if you can understand those things, then eventually you'll get the technique, and then you can do the technique from any position. But if you never understand why it works, then you're just, what Caio would say is, you're just mimicking, you're trying to duplicate a motion, and that's false. Like it's like, it's not accurate. It's not how it's going to work live. And that's why you always have problems from, going from a seminar to, the guy is always getting out of the arm lock or whatever. It's like, it's because you don't understand why you're doing the arm lock instead of going for a triangle. You should have been doing the triangle there. And that's what he was giving you. And so I try to get the students to try to understand the concepts and, the what, the where, and when and why of it all. And then, just kind of progress onto that. So advanced class is much more open. I kind of focus 100% on sport and what the guys are wanting to go over, or what is currently, popular for our advanced class. But the fundamentals is pretty structured.
How do you guys do rolling for like differences in advanced and your regular class?
So like what I like to do is I like to do like a situational sparring, at the end of class. So, if we're doing mount drill techniques for the day, then at the end of class, like let's practice holding and escaping mounts. Let's practice rolling to get to the mount. You know what I mean? And so that way you're doing something that's it's kind of like entry level sparring. Once you start opening it up and say, all right, do what you're good at, then that's when, people kind of start being a little bit more standoffish about jiu-jitsu and a little bit more apprehensive about rolling. So I try to like ease them into it with like a controlled format. And then after that, like, let them stick around afterwards. And so after class is over, because I usually let that be part of class. And at the end of class, we bow out, and those that want to stick around are able to roll, and those that don't want to can sit and watch or drill or whatever they want to do.
That is exactly what we have just recently started doing. We just moved to a new spot, and 3 nights a week, right after gi or no gi. And then another night we do, Omar's doing this, and I got the idea from, but we're doing a systems class, right? So we're just like all summer, we're just working on Donaher's leg locks system.
Cool.
Right. I mean, I just like, I've talked to Omar about it for a while. I'm like, hey man, how's that working out for you guys? But that's something else we're doing on one day a week, just throughout a couple of different times a day. And is another advanced class option where it's like an upper level study, but it's not like free rolling like what you're talking about. But we have 3 times for that now.
Exactly.
And that seems to be how everybody's doing it. That's why I asked you that question, because I'm super interested on an academy how other people are doing it.
And I think that's a sign of a good instructor is like, if you're always looking for ways to kind of change up or improve upon what you're doing, what your process is, like that's what makes your jiu-jitsu program good. So I'm sure your students are loving the fact that they're trying something new.
Man, where are you at on like trendy shit and leg locks and stuff in jiu-jitsu for like what you do, because I know you've competed a fair amount in a lot of tournaments, but like IBJJF, heel hook's always illegal. Like where are you at on training that stuff?
So like that's definitely where I'm trying to make sure that I don't get lost in the wave, so to speak, right? Because everybody is doing leg locks, and I never want my guys going out and being just like unprepared, like you would hate for them to see something for the first time at the tournament, right? So I try to do leg locks and learn leg locks and teach leg locks just so my students become aware of them, right? I try to explain to them like, listen guys, this is something that, if you're going to be sparring, this needs to be like an agreed situation, because we have a lot of new people. My goal is not to have 5 people become savage leg lockers, at the cost of whatever, right? My goal is to make the most people comfortable with jiu-jitsu. So if they're doing leg locks, like especially like heel hooks, they need to both be on, of the understanding that we're going for heel hooks, and I think if you, just like anything, man, like anything can be dangerous and anything can be safe. So if both people have like the consciousness of not trying to hurt each other and using good control, and then at the same time, the ability to let go of something, even when you're going to win anyways, I think that's the biggest part, because a lot of people will end up hurting themselves to get out of the leg lock. And it's really not the guy applying its fault at all. It's the person that was, not defending the way they should, being too stubborn, been guilty of it myself, and not getting out of it the way they should. So just like anything, you can hurt yourself however, but I try to keep it like, obviously no-gi only for the heel hooks, and make sure that people understand if you're going to do this rolling, you need to you need to be at a proficiency level to where you're not going to hurt anybody. So
For sure, man.
it's the question that everybody asks, though. Everybody wants to
Yeah.
know Gordon Ryan's heel hook system and all this stuff. So, I'm trying to not fall asleep watching the Danaher DVDs because he's way too intelligent for me. And the way he talks, I'm just like, oh my God, what are you're killing me right now, man.
I
The
gotta
manifestations of what?
I gotta take intense notes if
Dude,
just to follow along,
it's pretty intense, man. So, but his system works, and his leg locks are solid. So, what I've really been trying to get good at myself, and what a few of my students are very good at, is the Caio ankle lock that he does from De La Riva. This is a straight ankle lock, man. That thing is so nasty, and if you get good at it, you can really use it to catch people when they're not expecting a leg lock to come in. So that's been a real good meta, so to speak.
Yeah. Man, so like having an earlier background in some 10th Planet system stuff, were they doing the warm-ups at the time that you were in that system?
So that's kind of funny. I was the 10th Planet school in the world, right? So
Wow.
we were very early on with it. But yeah, I came in before we were doing the warm-up series. And that was a big reason that, honestly, man, I didn't like it. I was, I think, one of the first people that was just, I'm not going to do this. Some of it is great, but some of the warm-up series, especially when it was getting put out, and again, I'm not in the loop on what they're doing, so I'm not trying to say anything negative by any means. But I remember doing like reverse De La Riva, like inversion rolls as part of the warm-up, and I'm just like, how do I expect a brand new person to come in and do this as a warm up? Like you see how bad people are at shrimping, like how are they going to do reverse, inversions and stuff like that on their first day as a warm up. And so when that became a big focus, that was one of the reasons why I really started to kind of just notice what I wanted with jiu-jitsu. And that was understanding the fundamentals of how it works. And that's what Caio really just has in tenfold. So
Is there any of that stuff that you still have in your game, or you still do?
So I still will play rubber guard, a lot, man. If you drive into me in close guard, I can't help myself. You know what I mean? Because that's the time to play it. Lockdown, when I'm being flattened out in half guard, that's the time to play the lockdown. Twister rolls from top side is one of my favorite ways to take the back, by far. The truck is an amazing position, and so I think the biggest thing with 10th Planet is people have to realize that those positions are amazing techniques to use at the right time, but if you just go to lockdown when you could have been playing a shin shield half guard, then you just gave yourself flattened out for no reason. You know what I mean? And so when I was learning jiu-jitsu with 10th Planet specifically, like I wasn't learning those concepts. And maybe that was me living far away, whatever. But I didn't understand those things. I didn't understand the lockdown is a good half guard, but I would rather not be flattened out at all. So let's just play shin shield. You know what I mean? Like that to me was, kind of forcing a square peg in a round hole. The lockdown is amazing, but not to purposely flatten yourself out. The rubber guard is amazing, but if the guy is posturing up really hard, you're not going to be able to break down a black belt with that without hurting yourself,
Yeah, for sure, man. Like, and that's a great point. Like, I like a lot of 10th Planet stuff at the right time. And man, it just something to study in jiu-jitsu, and as a part of the culture, it's unavoidable at this point. Them and the Danaher Death Squad, and man, all these little associations, yourself included, everybody has great things to offer.
100%. And the thing is like you'll run into those things when you'll find out you don't know them when you run into one of those specialists. You know what I mean? Like you run into a guy from 10th Planet that you give, low posture in his closed guard, and then you're getting gogoplated. It's like, oh, I shouldn't do that. I get it. Or go against Caio, and or someone from Caio school, you're gonna go against someone that understands half guard very well, regardless if they play it or pass it. They're gonna be proficient at it. You go against a Danaher Death Squad, they understand the system of leg locks and using that not even just to attack the legs, but how to get to other positions, you know? And so I think that's why you should always be willing to study anybody's jiu-jitsu and then find out if it has a place in your game. You know, it doesn't mean you have to be a rubber guard practitioner, but you need to understand how it fits in the whole scheme, you know, the big web of it. It's like, how does, you know, there's rubber guard right there, you know, and like, I need to understand what to do when I'm in it or how to avoid it, you know?
For sure, man. I hate like what you were saying, like my people getting caught with something they have never seen before because of like some sort of closed-mindedness or dogmatism, and like, oh, that's bullshit. We don't
do that move here.
Yeah, you know, man. But you know, that's I think that I've learned over time and through just doing that that's not the best approach. You know,
it's not, man. And eventually you'll run in, like I said, you'll run into something. And I think with the focus of heel hooks right now, I am seeing that I personally have probably had a deficiency in making sure my advanced guys are really, really drilling that. And so having like a time and a place where we are getting after it in the leg, you know, working leg locks, I think has been important. So, yeah, sometimes instructors even need to take a step back and, you know, see if we're doing it right still, you know?
For sure, man. I totally agree. Well, man, like kind of wrapping it up, like what are some goals post pandemic? Everything goes back to normal. What are some goals you have for the future, man?
I got something super cool coming up. So, I just have you ever heard of wake surfing?
Oh yeah, my cousin, he has a Mastercraft wakeboarding boat. Yeah.
Yeah. So I just got a Malibu. It's shout out to the guys at Ski Shack. What's up? But yeah, it's a super, super awesome boat, man. I'm excited to get it out. But what I'm going to be doing this summer is I'm going to bring out different friends of mine and kind of like what you're doing right here, but just in a different format. And we're going to do a little bit of jiu-jitsu. And then after that, I'm going to take them out on the lake and either teach you how to surf or watch you surf and, you know, shred it up a little bit. And so we'll do a quick interview, kind of like what you're doing, hear about what they love about jiu-jitsu or stuff like that. It's going to be called Sessions. So check it out. Yeah, we're working on it right now.
Man, and kind of for people listening that don't know, like, because wake surfing is interesting. It kind of blew my mind the first time I saw somebody doing it. But like,
oh, dude, it ruined my life. Okay, so I grew up, you know, and living in and out of California. You know, my mom's originally from there, and so I lived there on and off throughout parts of my childhood, right? And so surfing was always just like an awesome thing to be able to go do. And I love it. And anytime I get the opportunity to go back to California, I would usually surf or take my boards or leave my boards at my grandma's house. And I mean, it got to the point where I would take my students and buy them surfboards and wetsuits just to make them come with me, you know? And one of my students, he's like, oh, dude, you had to come surfing with us down at the lake. I'm like, what are you talking about surfing at the lake? He's like, oh, it's behind a boat, it makes a wave. I'm like, dude, what are you talking about? There's no way it makes a wave, you know? He's like, no, it makes a legit wave. I'm like, okay, fine, take me out. And so we go out, and we go out on his uncle's what's called a Super Aeronautique G25. Okay, we're talking about like a $200,000 boat. The thing is amazing. It's a Batman's boat, right? And so I get on this thing, have no idea that it's one of the nicest boats in the whole surf industry, right? And just blown away at how awesome this thing is and how you can legitimate surf behind it. And it throws a pretty awesome wave, you know? And so I left there and I was just like, Google search, how much are these boats? What's going on? And so for the last 3 summers, I have been saving money. And, you know, I spent a bunch of that money when I opened up our new school. But for the most part, every cent that I can pocket, I've been, you know, setting aside to try to pull the trigger on a boat. And so last weekend, we finally found a good deal on one that we could afford. And we test drove it on Saturday. And so we're hopefully picking it up in like 2 days. So pretty stoked about that, man. So yeah.
Nice.
Surfing is so much fun. It's like the only thing I can compare to like tapping into like natural energy, like jiu-jitsu. Now we have to obviously make it here in Missouri. So that's why we got a boat. But yeah, super excited. I'll have to have you out, man. It'll be a lot of fun. We'll shred it up and talk about jiu-jitsu.
For sure, man. And next time I am in the neighborhood, head that way.
Anytime, man. Springfield BJJ is such a open school for visitors. We have people come in from all over the country, and what's awesome is once someone does come in as like a traveling person, they usually start using us as like just kind of their go-to spot when they're in the Midwest. So we always love having visitors.
Well, man, we go, Corey and I periodically, like I'd say a couple of times a year, go to Branson.
Yeah.
Which is
so that's where my boat will be, is on Table Rock, and we actually have some land down there right now. So we almost moved there actually a few months ago, but we decided to stay in Springfield. So
okay, wow, nice.
Yeah, it's a nice area, man. I love it down there.
Yeah, it is. It really is. I've got a few members that like grew up in Branson. I was like, man, I didn't know people grew up there.
You let me know anytime you're in the area, man. We'll get out. We'll get on the lake.
I will, bro, for sure. Well, I appreciate you coming on, and I'll give you a shout if I'm in the neighborhood, and well, I'm sure I'll be seeing you around on the circuit.
Sounds good, Brian. Hey, man, thanks for having me. I appreciate it, and great job here. So I'll look forward to seeing you soon.
All right, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks a lot. Later, bud.